So my name is Laura Mitchell. I'm a Canadian. I've been living in Norway for the last 10 years, and I worked for many years in international development, social development. I worked in the West Bank, the occupied Palestinian territories. I worked in parts of the former Soviet Union, in Tayikistán during the Civil War, with women heads of household during the conflict, and then during the transition out of the violent conflict there. And I've also worked as a researcher for a number of years, particularly on gender issues. I've been interested for a very long time in the dynamics of households and in particular women's coping strategies, how they cope in situations of authoritarianism, but also how they cope in kind of with very low incomes, how they make things work, their creativity, the resourcefulness. I studied a lot of critical theory, so a lot of feminist theory, anti-racist theory, other forms of social theory, so that has come to really inform the way I think and the way I try to approach my work and also my praxis. So I'm a big believer in transformative social transformation and gender equity, and trying to create more equitable environments. And that informs my work on conflict and on gender, peace, and security. I also speak, I think 6 languages. My mother tongue is English, and I speak French, I speak Norwegian, I speak Russian, I speak Arabic, and pretty good Spanish, although I'm a bit shy to speak in Spanish right now. So for me also, language has been an important part of helping me feel more connected and understand people's perspectives in the different countries that I've been able to visit or work in, understand the discourses, understand a bit better their histories, and because that's important in shaping politics and shaping what's possible. So in terms of my work, I work at a center called the Norwegian Peacebuilding Resource Center, which was set up about 8 years ago, and I worked there for about 5 years now. I work geographically on the Arab world, which is a region an area of the world I really love. Feel very attached to, and thematically I work on gender, peace, and security, and kind of gender and inclusivity. So also work that I really love and that inspires me. So yeah, what else should I say? Right now I'm working on an initiative with Dr. Carol Cohn of the Consortium for Gender, Human Rights, and Security in Boston, looking at what does a sustainable feminist peace look like, and trying to inform our approach to building sustainable peace, a sustainable feminist peace informed by political economy. So I find that really rich and stimulating, and it's also really making me think a lot about how I approach peace and conflict, because I think how we think about conflict affects how we see solutions and the kind of remedies we need to engage with or changes we need to make. So it's been really exciting being here in Colombia and participating in this Sexo y Poder conference, because we just had an expert meeting as part of that initiative in June, where we were talking about economy. And I think it's very easy for women activists and feminist activists, in conditions of conflict, to, think about the very direct violations of human rights and women's rights, and so sexual-based violence and violence against women, and of course they're extremely important topics. But I also think that we need to also take, if you think of it this way, we may need to take a step back and try to think about the bigger picture of economic reconstruction. And I'm really trying to think about, how do we bolster women's status economically? And I think to do that, we have to think about the post-conflict or post-agreement reconstruction budget. And what we know now is women are basically left out of, I don't know, 50 to 60% of that budget, maybe more, because almost no money for economic recovery and infrastructure goes to women. It's ungendered. And when you combine that with the effects of privatization and extractive industries, you can see how, you know, women, we're not seizing on the opportunity to, you know, erode the structural barriers to women's full participation as economic actors. And I think we have to try to push our thinking and push institutional thinking out of course, there are many women who are victims of sexual-based violence and other violence, but we're actors too, and we need to be full actors. We need to get much more of that money for women's participation. And the same is, you know, another kind of big area of the budget is, you know, rule of law and security, and it's another area where there's very little resources allocated for women. So I really hope that there will be peace in Colombia. I hope there will be a peace agreement in Colombia and that there will be a transition out of violent conflict. But I think to do that, women in Colombia have a great opportunity, and the society has a great opportunity right now, and maybe in the next year or two or three, to really erode those structural barriers. But it's like the moment is like right now. And you have to think about the private sector and extractive industries and how will that affect. Great, hopefully women will get land, but it won't be helpful if they get land and then they're pushed off because of corruption or, you know, agreements that are struck behind closed doors, and then they're pushed off by, you know, other forces. So I feel really optimistic. I'm so impressed by all the women I've met with. I mean, I'm impressed and moved and still kind of trying to process all the things that I've learned here. And I just really, you know, if I had a fairy godmother, my hope and wish would be that, you know, in 5 years' time, everyone will be looking to the experience of Colombia and Colombian women and say, you know, they've exceeded anyone's expectations. They've made major inroads. So that's really my hope, and I hope that, you know, members of international community, international organizations, that we can also help you through our solidarity, through our cooperation, you know, in taking some steps further beyond where other women's organizations and movements in other countries affected by war have been able to, the things they've been able to achieve.